Jerry's here. 1.2, need a motion and a second for approval of the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2, acknowledgements.
I don't have any for this one.
Number 3, conflict of interest waivers. None. Number 4, open forum time.
Yeah.
Number 5, the consensus agenda. Need a motion and a second to approve the consensus agenda consisting of 5.1, the minutes from the September 12th meeting, 5.2, the financial report for the September, 5.3, trust and agency report September, 5.4, impress report for September, 5.5, presented bids for October.
Motion. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Go to business and finance, 6.1, declare miscellaneous item surplus.
Okay, if you look in your packet, just close mine out. I believe there's 3 different things that are listed on there. There's a white drum set.
There's tom drums, a pair of tom drums, and a white drum set, and then the old stage curtains.
Yep, and all of those items, we're asking the board to approve them as surplus with 0 value, and we'll either dispose of them or give them away.
For appraisers, Craig Passons, anyone else volunteer on that? I'll just pass that around for you guys to sign, and then if you want to get a motion to declare. I'll make a motion to declare those items surplus.
Need a second.
I'll second though.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At 6.2, we need to appoint a delegate assembly for the Associated School Board.
This is a school board activity. Jerry and I, we attended the Region Associated School Board meeting in Aberdeen a week and a half ago. And this is one of the events where that organization will have a legislative platform and things that they approve, and you'll go and actually vote on those things so that when it comes time for the legislative session, that organization will know how to try to get legislators to vote on the issue. So I don't know if anybody, has anybody done it before?
I'd just like to say that before we go, we should go over the packet though.
Yep, and I have it. Jerry and I both have it. And it
We
might
didn't go
change.
over it last year, I got there, I just kind of went with the crowd.
Yeah, I have it in my, and I have a folder right here, Scott. We can do that with you.
Any volunteers?
What day is that?
Kelly?
Yeah, when is that?
Pass, sure.
I don't know that the dates have been set yet, are they?
I'm gonna try to look here.
Well, I know BJ and Scott spent a lot of time on this building project, so.
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting actually. Sit there.
When was it last year?
November. It only took about, I don't know, maybe 3 hours.
It's on the 16th of November. which is a Friday. And it usually goes like in the morning, I think, or early afternoon. Begins at 1 o'clock, will be done by 5.
1 to 5.
Yep, and it will be held at Drifters in Fort Pierre.
Did you ask Ryan, is that something he's interested in at all?
I haven't spoken to him.
What else you needed to know?
I think we can wait a little bit yet. We can probably wait a couple weeks.
I guess if nobody else will do it, I'll do it.
I can go again if anybody wants to. Unless you want to go and do it.
Well, I mean,
School calendar, it's state volleyball. So I
Yeah,
don't
it
think
is.
you're regardless.
well, I won't deny it, Scott, if you want to do it.
We don't talk about it.
So, want to talk about it later then? Next week.
If we got a couple weeks, we'll just let you know then.
That's fine.
Okay, moving on to 6.3, October special meeting and November regular meeting discussion.
Lisa, do you want to talk about the October one?
Yeah, just like we did last year, in October is usually our low month for cash balance in the general fund. And I think we're very close right now. I kind of figured our cash balance compared to what we had last year for total expenditures. And if it's similar, we're right at that 30%. But I'd like to have a meeting by that last day in October, 31st. Just to pay the bills that we have on hand, so that we're not so close. Rather be safe than sorry on that. If I could get at least 3 board members in at 1 o'clock on the 31st to pay those, that would be great.
The morning meeting.
In the morning would be fine too.
By the 31st or
On the 31st.
on the 31st? Yeah, would like a morning work or?
Okay.
Harvest wise, you know.
Oh, sure. How late in the morning could you do it?
I guess how early? Like
That's
8
fine.
o'clock or something's fine?
We can go 8 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to get as many bills in as I could, but no, that works.
Alright, perfect.
And then do we want to have a discussion about a time for the November meeting? I mean, we moved this one to 8 o'clock to accommodate for harvest, and the weather is not cooperating very well. Do we want to consider November, or we want to leave it?
I guess I would like to have an 8 o'clock meeting in November.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. Some more people at this 8 o'clock meeting than our
Do you
last
guys,
meeting.
do you guys want to wait and decide that week and see what the weather's doing, or, because if we run into a situation like this where it's not going to be, I mean, can we decide later, or?
I guess whatever, that's fine with you, let
That's
people know.
still 7 days out, I mean, or 8 days, I mean, second Monday in November, so we still do it a week out.
Just sort of not forecast.
Yeah.
If you were to go, if I can put my 2 cents in here, if you go at 6, you'll want to go to a different venue because there'll be basketball going on in this gym at that time. I got it up on the board behind there. So if you went at 8, less chance of that happening. But
Let's go at 8.
Okay.
That works for me.
So 8 o'clock. Moving on to 7.1, the superintendent's report.
Okay, my report is on board docs in your packet. As I mentioned earlier, Jerry and I attended the Associated School Boards of South Dakota Region meeting on the 26th of September in Aberdeen. I have a whole folder here on the table of things that we covered. A lot of it was them promoting their services that they provide to school districts. And they did talk a lot about legislative issues coming up. And I really felt that, I mean, I know this is a school board organization, but a lot of superintendents are there as well. in my opinion, Jerry, you can chime in on this if you want. I really felt that their legislative positions had changed a lot. I mean, I'd been there for the last 5 or 6 years, and it always seemed like we were talking about the same exact thing until September. They have different positions on different things, and it just seems like they really, in my opinion, have their act together a lot better this year than they have in the past. So.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't at last year's regional meeting, but the year before, I just, so there's, yeah, there are some issues that are going on there, right, 2 years.
So we attended that, and it was a really good event. Just a reminder to the school board that I'll be attending a superintendent's retreat this week, Wednesday through Friday. This was the one that's done by Ty out in Rapid City, and it's an event that focuses on school leadership. And there's about 22 of us, I think, that are going. The next couple things are kind of together. I've talked about them before. We've talked about doing an online payment program here in the school district to allow parents to pay for lunch program and any other fees like start of the year fees. There are fees associated with it, but they will not be on the school district. Just like if you take your debit card and you go to an ATM that's not at your bank, they charge like a $2 or $3 fee. This will be the same thing for the parents. If they use a debit or a credit card, there's a $2.75 fee for each $100 transaction. And if you use an e-check, it's only $1 per $100 transaction. So we're going to try it second semester of this current school year and see how it works. And if it works well, we'll continue with it. If not, we will discontinue it. We're moving forward with the new school website as well. Jeremy and I have been in on webinars, and right now it's kind of in the design process. And this week I'm supposed to call the company back and have a conversation with them to try to get some more things in place. But the new website is off and running. I'm doing a book study with our staff, the certified staff here at school, from the book called Teach Like a Pirate. So if you go into my office, I have a big Jolly Roger flag hanging up in my office, and there's pirate things that are going to start showing up around the school. That's what it's for, just so you guys know. We will also be taking part in Project Stand Up, and Jerry and I, this was talked about at the Associated School Board meeting. What it is, it's Project Stand Up for School Safety. It's basically a way for students and the community, if you hear any talk about anything that is unsafe or anything that's going to do any potential harm to the school or kids or staff here, you can anonymously text, and there'll be signs up all around the school. There's a number, and it walks you through a series of about 9 questions. And it's very detailed, and it tells you if you're filing a false report that you could get prosecuted. I'm not sure how they will know that because it's anonymous, but that's what the question says. And there's several places along the way to stop your report if you want to stop it. But then what happens is once those 9 questions are answered, an email gets sent to me, to Mr. Cassens, and to Brent Cones, who's a deputy here in town. And we tested it a week and a half ago, Brent and I did. And about 10 minutes after it was sent, we both got emails, and it basically listed the person's name, where it was going to happen, and it's actually pretty cool. So we'll be taking part in that. We're going to be educating the students on it sometime in the near future, and then posters will be up, and away we go. Upcoming events, October 26th, we have parent-teacher conferences, and October 19th is already the end of the first quarter. So the year is going by very quickly. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thanks.
8.1, the secondary principals report.
Okay, this past week, we had our artist in residence in the building, and his name was Mr. Lawrence Diggs. He worked with students in grades 8 through 11, and actually taught them some vocabulary and then morphed it into some poetry. And I think a lot of our students at first thought, oh boy, poetry, and I'm not saying all of them came out of it smiling and they're going to be the next poet laureates of Falk County, but overall well received. I want to thank the Falk County Arts Council again for helping get those people into our building. I have a couple house cleaning items just to let the public and the board know. 2 tests coming up. The PSAT for this is basically a practice ACT test, and the students that take the PSAT do get their test and their booklets back to them. So unlike the ACT, they can kind of look to see maybe where their strengths or weaknesses might be. And we have that here on the 10th of October. And that's an optional test for juniors. And then we have all the juniors at the end of the month taking the ASVAB test, which is put on by the military. 2 different tests all together, but we have that going on in October. And you may see someplace, whether it's news, newspaper, whatever, something called Educators Rising. This is a new CTSO program. CTSO is an acronym for student leadership or career intact student organization. We have FCCLA and FFA. It's a similar setup. Educators Rising is a new one in the state, and this is more of a trial year that they're going to try to get this up and going. The goal of it is to get young people, high school age kids, involved in education and interested in that field of study. Some of the schools to the southeast part of the state are even looking at some incentives where students that are involved in that and if they graduate from college, they're going to give them almost a guaranteed interview at their home district, trying to keep people in the community, so to speak. So currently we do teach a teach and train course, Mrs. Marias does, and it meets every other day, and this, if you recall, is the first year of that. So it kind of goes hand in hand. There's no cost to the district on this. We're kind of along for the ride. We're going to see how it rolls this year, and be on the lookout for more information as the months progress. And that's all I have. Anyone have any questions? Thank you.
We're moving on to 9.1, building committee update.
Before I start that, I have one thing I forgot to add to my superintendent report. Jerry and I spoke on the way home from the Region Associate School Board meeting about maybe it's time to start some policy reviews with the school board and looking at some policies. So I'm going to sit down and get that figured out and involve Associated School Boards of South Dakota. So just so the board members are aware of that, we're going to probably start pulling some policies and doing some reviews on a few of them. Nothing major. Okay, building committee update. I have not had a building committee meeting. It's probably been, what, about a month? Has it been a month since the last one? And in the meantime, HKG has been working on lots of different things. And I kind of feel bad for Buffy. Buffy has been here, and we walked around the school, and she looked at some different rooms and sizes of rooms and things that we need. And she's worked on some plans and then changed them and then worked on them and then changed them. And so tonight in front of you, you have a plan that's a little bit different from the plan that we looked at when we had our last building committee meeting. The plan that we had talked about, that middle courtyard area, we had the new middle school, high school, and the old elementary school connected up in the corner where the playground is. And that middle courtyard has presented some challenges with appropriate drainage and ways to make sure that the water and snow, snow is not going to drift up and be up to the roof. So we've gone back to not having the buildings attached. And we've kept the new kitchen, the commons, and then you'll see the new middle school, high school there, and some things have even been switched on this plan from the one I got like 2 weeks ago. They had it all closed in. So you'll see a lot of different things on here. Down in the elementary wing, you'll see basically one whole room that basically has cubbies in it. The cubbies take up a lot of room in each individual classroom. So the idea was kind of kicked around to pull those out of the classrooms and put them in their own separate, like, little locker room area. And if need be, if we ever needed to have a room back, a classroom back, we could probably pull those cubbies out and have a classroom in there if we needed it. Bathrooms will get redone in the elementary school, and the classrooms will get refurbished and redone. My office, Mary's office, and Lisa's office will get repurposed into something different as well. And you'll see all of SPED basically. There's a SPED room, that'll be a new addition, that green part, right by the new other green area where the Commons is at. And that way we can provide special ed to elementary, and then there's a SPED room up in the middle school, high school area as well. What else? New library, new conference room, board room, and again, I think one of the important pieces is a new kitchen. When we put out bids to have somebody take over our food service program, the state was very reluctant to allow that to happen because of the condition of the kitchen right next door. And we've always been telling them we're going to renovate, or we're going to have a new kitchen, and they've kind of been letting us kind of slide. So we will have a new kitchen. The cooler and the freezer that's in the bottom, they're 8 feet by 8 feet, so 64 square feet, which is a little bit bigger than the freezer we have now and bigger than the walk-in cooler that we have now. And I've emailed the food service director, and he said 64 square feet would be sufficient, and that would work. There's also a cost analysis form that's attached. The new construction would be 26,620 square feet, and the elementary remodel would be 14,500 square feet. And on that form, you can see that the remodel costs are about $117 a square foot, and the new construction cost is $203, almost $204 a square foot. Any questions, school board members? Dean and Scott from HKG are here.
So these are prefab walls on the new construction.
We use that, we put in, we haven't, did a similar project, and it was, we got more, the precast saved us in excess of the 100,000, but we haven't worked with the people here, but yes, there would be a savings, and we feel minimum $100,000 to do the precast walls ourselves, so.
In these cubby area for the elementary, has there been other schools that have a similar?
We have we've done some other schools, they haven't had the kindergarten and preschool, they kind of go from, usually the 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th up from there. A lot of times, that's what we talked about with the building committee too, a lot of times with the pre-kindergarten and kindergarten, 1st grade, they a lot of times have those cubbies in the room just because they take more time, but that's what we look at for now. Like Scott said, you can repurpose that if that's chosen. We just take that out of the plan. It's just a room that can be used for a guidance
little
or
commons
teachers
area or something.
So.
I guess I was wondering how if the bond would pass and this is approved, how are we gonna handle the boiler thing? I guess the hope is to remodel the elementary during the summer.
Well, the elementary will have its own system. It would be, we could almost like doing the dual heat. We will have to put air handlers in up in that attic space we talked about. That's where we kind of got off in the tangent of some of the plans that some of Scott, because we're trying to figure out a way to phase this and make it work. It's just hard to do. Sure. Building across the front and the flow. I think Scott kind of said that it doesn't flow that well. If we're going to commit, we do the elementary school, we supplement it, through the 1st year, and then we get the boiler involved. We can piggyback off that.
How about heating this place, like the old gym and the community center? I take it one of the first things to happen, our current boiler get tore out of there.
Right, and then we need to do, and that's why that's up there, in that corner, which looks kind of weird as in front, but that mechanical room's gotta be put in.
Right away.
Would be
then.
done in the summertime, yes.
In that summertime.
That's why the location's gotta be where it is, 'cause we have to have someplace where it can get at it. So, that's where some of the things we're working with is, how do you phase it? How do you keep everything working? And that's one of the ways. So.
And I think either, no matter what we do, we're gonna displace kids at
Yes.
some point. I don't think there's any way around that.
Right, you try to minimize it, but let's face it, the school's right where, the high school's right where it's supposed to be. I mean, your high school, you can't do it without tearing it down. You have obviously the community center, we have a number of classrooms in the shop and that building there and up. That's what we'll have to do.
I did speak with a board member of the Methodist Church also. He reached out to other board members, and that would be available.
Yeah.
If we need.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to probably do
You
that.
tackle the elementary school this summer, I mean, if you were to go to in past, you tackle that, and then you know, at the same time you're bidding, but when you're doing everything else, you gotta get it.
Then the new high school, would that have a kind of a slope roof then?
Yes,
Would that
we're looking,
taper?
and that's, if we get a plan, our next thing, and we've started doing elevations, we'll do the perspectives and the walkthroughs that everybody can see. We're just, we kind of pulled back on that just because we got doing too many plans. We had to really sit down, Scott was involved, and really after the meeting, sit down and say, how do we got, what's the best use of your money? I mean, we need to be, you know, the challenge is being under 8 million or under, and really we figure we'll be under that, and you'll have some option to do alternates in that. But how do you phase it? You know, how do you get in there and get it done? And it's just, that's what you, so we'll do the plan to show the different elevations. If we get something where we're saying, right now what we're saying is this is the plan that meets a lot of the, because I can't say that we've satisfied every person, but we've tried to put room and spend. Those are some pretty good. You know, we have this custodial room that's off the end, and really, do we need that? But you know, they're talking about storage. Once we get everything figured out, that could be, can you zip up, pull it back?
I think, Craig, you're controlling the stuff right on the
Oh,
screen.
I'm sorry, you want to see what?
Can you pull it up to show the high school wing at the top?
Okay, looking at this.
Yeah.
You
See,
want
we
the
have-
mechanical room?
Yeah, you have that, if you go to the side to the east now, that we got leftover space that named it as custodial, but it really could be a smaller classroom, things like that. I mean, do we really need it? But we gotta do the programming, find out, make sure we have we took the entrance, and we eliminated that courtyard, which really, you're exactly right, Scott. I mean, drainage out of there was, we had 25,000 into just draining that center courtyard, and it's really where we want to spend the money. So we made some hard decisions, walked through it, and there's some nice spaces there. The fax room's big. We got the classrooms, the science. You know, the IT was a little bit smaller than we started out with, but we're trying to accommodate everybody, you know, and give something to everybody for it. So,
I have two questions, Dean.
yeah.
How do we make sure, and I don't know if there's a really good answer to this, out of all this, my big fear is that once we get into that elementary school, is there a point where we just say, whoa, time out? This is gonna cost a ton of money. We came across an unforeseen problem and we're gonna have to spend way more money than we really wanted to? Or is it something that when we just do it, this is it, and we just have to bite the bullet and go? I mean, that's really my only big fear in this whole thing. I like this
Right.
plan, and I think it'll work great. The renovation, I don't have a problem with. Sometimes when you get in old buildings, you come across things that you might not want to see. I mean, is it, once we say, hey, here's a plan, we just go and just hope that we can fix the problems and not have big price tags on those issues? Is that kind of where we're at?
I guess we looked at it and we've anticipated everything we can.
Okay.
I mean, it's you know, Scott, you know, you open up walls, we're saying, you know, we're doing the plumbing, we're renovating that, you know, which we had in the estimate. I mean, we
Yep.
started out at, you know, 1-2 at one time, you know, and we did everything we can. The new addition, we can, yeah, I guess if, we don't see it at this time, that we're gonna hit something that's been, the classrooms are the classrooms.
Right.
They're sturdy. We do have some things we talked about, we have some areas that have some deterioration that we need to take care of. We'll fix those. If there would be something that we're not seeing, we will have, our structural engineer will be down here in 2 weeks, and we're gonna walk through the building again.
Okay.
Just to give us some comfort level again, so. He's coming down for nothing, so I'm just telling you, so that it's not like he's not making a special trip, but on my list, we're out here Broncos, we're coming over here to look at it.
That's what I thought too. I just wanted to make sure, and I wanted to hear it from you.
Yes.
Out of your mouth, so.
Yeah.
And I, for the life of me, can't remember what my second question was. It's gone.
With the current bus entry being closed up, what is the plan for like bus drop off and pickup?
We were going to do it on the front of
Of the new commons area.
common area.
So then what do we do with parking?
We have room, well, the thing is we have, the space we have, we'll have to have either the playground or a portion of the playground back in the corner, which you can see still fits on there. We'd have to look at parking behind or just the space. I mean, we have to have the drop off
I
there.
guess you're gonna have to park where the buses are at, people have to walk around the corner.
Yeah.
It's just right now, I mean, to be here after school, that's kind of always been a concern where the buses were coming with parents and drop off and kids
Yeah.
and going between them, being a big safety issue. And to me, this looks like we're gonna create a bigger issue because this is where everybody will be then.
Right. It is what, I guess.
Can I answer that?
Okay.
You know, in the teacher surveys, that was a big issue, for safety. But we gotta kind of balance the issue here. That, first of all, we want everybody to come to a single entrance in the morning for parents. So that's, now there's multiple entrances. I think that was the goal here from the staff and the parents, I believe. So we have to weigh the pros and the cons of that. And it sure seems logical that, you know, where you come in, you have to leave. Because it's still the same issue. There's still the security issue. They have to be monitored. Kids will be monitored, all that. Little kids and different ages. But it will create more congestion over on the side, no question about it. I don't know if that answers the question, but going back to this.
The high school, we did talk about the high school kids coming in, parking and having that to certain hours available to the north doors. But really the buses are from Kennedy. I don't have a good, we'll just have to make adjustments to it, so.
We've talked a little bit too, Kelly, about maybe paving up closer to the building where the buses can maybe pull up and get kind of off the street a little bit more. So they're kind of tucked up toward the building a little bit more so that they don't impede the flow of traffic. I mean, it's crazy out here after school on the side the way it is now. But we've had a little bit of discussion about it, but nothing really has popped out with that.
I don't, I just don't know how you'd ever get it perfect. I mean, if you have a single entrance, you're only gonna have so much space for the bus to show up, so just gonna have to designate the east side as parking. I don't know how you would just improve it, I guess.
They can still, and the high school kids, would they still be using this?
I think so.
You know, years ago, there was a lot more kids in traffic years ago. I don't think it's as bad as it was 20 years ago. I think, I don't know, just looking at it, I guess, first time really looking at this, I think it looks pretty good. Staff on board.
We'll have we're gonna try to have a meeting tomorrow night, building committee meeting. They haven't, this is the first time that my staff has even seen this, the ones that are here. So tomorrow night will be the first time that the ones that are on the building committee will get to see it, and then we'll go from there.
The library dimensions and such, is that, there's been conversations of, you know, whether the county library someday would ever want to be a part of this, and whether that happens or not. I'm not sure if those conversations was part of the building committee or not, but is this sufficient for something like that down the road, or no?
That was one of the alternates we have, is to expand the library. You can see all the way over to the file storage. If you, that would be one of those things that within our budget, and or the county. The library that you saw before was bigger.
Yeah.
But we took it down, or so, but that's a good question, Kelly, because we had it expanding out at one time farther than that. That would be an alternate. Say that we were under budget and somebody came up there and said we want, before starting construction, or I guess you could afterwards, it'd be more of a hassle, but we can expand the size of the library and then have an after-hour entrance in or something like that too. So that's what that's planned on there.
And you're okay with that? I mean, as far as for safety and everything?
Yeah, yep.
What do you think that could be?
As long as there's a separate entrance, and there's already kind of one drawn on there, Dean,
Yeah.
a little bit.
But it's really not, I mean, that's an emergency exit.
It
now.
is.
So if we expand it out, we do more of an entrance that would be available, that they might have to come in and get buzzed in, even during school days, you know, because that is really all coming. We can't really have it, that there's a free flow of people, even if it's the county, to come in and out without.
Yeah, a lot of times during the day, they don't let the people, I mean, they open it up in the evening for the community.
Yeah.
And don't come in during the daytime.
Right.
Correct, yeah, that's what Salt Lake Beach says, yeah.
Yeah, because there's all kinds of
Yeah.
registered sex offenders and
So the elevation that we talked about a while back, that's through this hallway, that it's gradually,
No, that the transition takes place, you can see right there where it does now. But then when you get up to that far end, to your point, everything blue and green is the same elevation as the gymnasium, as it is here. So the orange is still the lower floor. Everything else is moved up higher. So there's a ramp in that hallway right outside sped. The sped class is halfway up, you know, elevation wise, the new sped.
where the steps are at now by my office.
Right, so
Those
landing.
will become ramps.
Is there, I think what she's asking, is there some dirt work that has to be done, some dirt has to be moved in on the.
No, not for the
Not
new
on the
addition.
northeast. On the northeast part of the.
Well, the
middle
northeast
school.
yes, you would be higher than the elementary school, as you come around 30 inches or
Is
28
there some dirt
inches.
work that have to be done there then?
You could do a retaining wall.
Would we be eliminating this big ramp right out here then too, Dean? Is that kind of the
Yeah.
plan?
Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah, the rampant, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be
Yeah,
all
that's
flush.
the
kitchen.
Yeah. That thing's terrible. Broke my ankles going down it.
Yes, there would have to be grading up on that. There has to be grading in order to get that all onto that. And it's room for additions. I mean, really the plan sets up that you can add on for some reason if you want to.
I remember my question. The outside of the building,
Yep.
can you explain a little bit how you plan to tie in when you remodel the elementary, tie that into the look of the new building, and what is the new part going to kind of consist of? Roughly, I mean, you probably don't, I mean, it probably
Well,
isn't set.
you're really looking, because we talked about doing EFS, you know, which is insulated on the outside of the elementary school in order to give it a better R value. So we can use those, we can put a brick or leave some brick on in order to complement that. But the precast is going to be set on the side, and you'd have similar colors. You'd either have the brick on the bottom and then have that one be tied in. The roofs are going to be what the challenge is, because we talked about the elementary school, we're gonna have a pitch roof on there. With the way that it looks for the high school, the north wing, you can do the pitch roof. When we get back into the existing school, we got the gymnasium roof have to do some things where we're gonna have some flat, not flat roof, but not the metal roof, because we can't go up on that existing gym. So we'll be working with that. But then as we go to the office areas and those, we can work with some pitch roofs on those. As we come forward.
So up in the blue, that goes into the shop then?
Yeah, there was a discussion that they wanted access into the shop without having to go out and around.
So right now, the kids have to travel way around from the building and come around this way.
Yeah.
If you look at the plan now, up in that corner by the mechanical room, there's a hallway that we'll put a door in the shop, so the kids will just go right straight across in the shop.
But the building's up against the gym now, so we
Right.
won't have that gap in there.
Right.
Won't have windows either.
Right.
In the-
Well, that's where we put the, the fax room and the sped,
Yeah.
don't need, and music typically, or don't have to have the exterior windows where you want science, because you're maybe throwing some things in classrooms, don't have an exterior window, so that's how we made the choice.
So that is the same level or height,
Now, that, I can't tell you 100%, because there's so many,
right?
I'd have to go
'Cause
out and
I feel
shoot
like that's
out.
higher.
Well, we've got the hallway there, so we're gonna have to either, we can either ramp a little bit. We're not 100% sure on that. I can't tell you what that elevation is. It was a lot of discussion about when you look at the, you can just see that a little bit, move it out. All those stairs there. I mean, what is, you can just see it off the stage. Nobody really, we'd have to shoot the elevation, because that is a concern about coming across there. What is that final elevation? If we have to have a stairway and you have to go out, we would like to make it all ADA accessible. There's always that chance that we have an elevation that we can't make up for it in a ramp in that hallway. We only got so much room to work with. So,
Is there something with, if we go break into this and do a project like this to be ADA compliant with the band room, all the way up that flight of stairs, is there anything that will tie us, or I guess, that states that we have to make that?
what you have to do is you have to provide everything on the main floor that, you're not, the band room is, the music room's on the main floor, but if you're doing something and you're supposed to, everything's supposed to be ADA, but you do have the option that you can shift classes or something if you have something on the upper floor that everything is accessible to something, but you cannot.
We won't have nothing up there. What do we have?
I don't know if we need to use that storage
Yeah,
pretty much.
I didn't know, thought from years previous that there was some discussion about that
We were
that
not
state.
planning on, but we were not gonna access those other floors, like Jerry said, where they talked about using for storage. We were not putting in an elevator in or a lift or anything to get up on those upper floors.
Are we doing a timeline, like getting this to a vote in time for bids?
Well, we're still good with that, I mean, this spring. We were talking about here, on just in the numbers here, it would be nice if they lift some, steel embargoes and stuff, and if anybody drove by Kmart in town, we've been waiting for steel for 2 months. That's our, so it's not, as soon as this board moves forward with to vote and all that is good, because there is we're not gonna have the problem with the elementary school, but moving forward with the high school or something, maybe the steel is really what's holding everybody back.
So the construction manager, like if we vote to go to a bond and then we gotta start this 45-day clock, because we gotta wait 45 days, correct? Before we should have a public vote on it. Do we figure 3% of this project cost here to add on?
No,
Bond.
we figured, this is our number, so you look at the construction manager, that, I guess we would say that within our numbers there, that feeds in there as you would.
You're saying the construction manager fees are in this number?
The reason, just for the benefit of everybody, within the numbers, like for the new construction or the remodeling, our general construction, general contractor margins are already in there. So they just simply get transferred from the general contractor to a construction manager, and hopefully there's some efficiencies created with the construction manager, which there will be. So So that's why those fees balance each other out. Until you commit to a project, commit to a floor plan, we're kind of bound by, these are the best numbers we can give you. Once you bring that person on, we can start to work some of those parameters.
So when do we do interviews for construction manager? After we vote as a
Yes.
board to move forward?
No, after you do a bond, unless you're, well,
I would vote on the bond and then bring them on.
yeah, because you're gonna commit to, if he's gonna, unless you want to, they do have a pre-bond, they can do a pre-bond.
You asked what they would want money up front for.
Yes, there would be a portion that did have.
Yeah, there was I can't remember what the percentage was, but I guess, I think I'm still confused. So within that 7.9 million, a construction manager at risk, that amount is in there. From what I've been told, they usually ask for about a 3 to 5% of what the cost of the bond is gonna be. And that person typically works for the school district. It usually is somebody separate. It's not somebody that's the general contractor.
Correct.
It's somebody that works for us, so that if we feel that something's being done inappropriately, that person will get after the general contractor and say, you were supposed to do this for 70,000, it's gonna cost 90, la la la, and basically they look out for the district. So I don't know if I'm understanding it correctly, but do you have 3%, 4%, or 5% built into that? I mean, or is that something, are we totally talking something totally different?
No, you're correct on that, but what we use the numbers here for is we use our bid numbers that for new construction was what we did in Murdo and Jones County, and that wasn't a construction manager, but they still have their markups. Every contractor has that, whether it's 3 or 5% on a project. So our numbers, and we've allowed for another year as far as construction goes. So we've added a percentage to those numbers to get this, so that we can't take our numbers that we bid for Jones County or for Bison and just transfer them over, because you have 1 or 2 years later you're adding that. So
I still think, I'm still confused.
Okay,
Because what it sounds like to me, what you guys have done is you've built in 3 or whatever percent possibly that this is gonna be over. So this number could change by 3 or 5%, is that what you're saying?
Are you saying that the contractor has it in there that we would hire them to do that job, and
well,
when we don't?
I think we're confusing what a construction manager and a general contractor. You will not have a general contractor when you have a construction manager going out. That's gone. Now you'll take that construction manager and you'll have packages that he bids concrete, steel, erection, those kinds of things. That's where he's working for you. He might say, that steel package is way too expensive, we should be able to bring that down. And that's where those percentages come into play. A general contractor is gonna just off the bottom, he's gonna bid that, that's a cold bid. And his margin is gonna be in there, in that number. That's how he makes his money. That's his profit. So that's gone if you want to go to a construction manager at risk. That is all out of it. The person you want to work for you will work directly for you as the construction manager at risk.
Let's say we hire Pitts Construction
Okay?
as the contractor, or as the person that's gonna come and do the job, build the building. Does their guy then become our construction manager at risk, or can we pick a guy from Johnson Construction out of Sioux Falls?
you interview at construction, okay, so can I back up? When we did Bison, we did this, and they have a construction manager, which is Avery Penny. They didn't do their bond. They went on our estimate of cost, which had that cost in there, and then their fee was already figured part of that. They're not gonna give you a CM at risk based on our fees and for the contingency and those. They're gonna take what our cost is for doing the building, and they're gonna figure that their fees are part of that, because it's, when you go to build it, in our budget, it's gonna be just based on what the building costs are. And that's what they, as in Bison, our estimate, the total project could not be over 6 million. That's where we're at the time. The construction manager came in and they had 5.4 million to work with, and they gave them a fee based on that. That's 5.4, and they said our fee is 3%, which was part of the 5.4. And then they went and bid it, and we came in at like 4.9. So their fee is in there, but when you bid it as a general, if you're gonna do design, bid, build, it's just a straight bid, and then you have general requirements, which is the bonds and their foreman and their fees are all in that part, so. Still might be confusing, but it's, what we're saying is that our numbers there for the building include those contractor fees. If you were to do a general contractor, his fees will be in there. If you do a construction manager risk, the total budget is the same, 5, 4, or 5, 6, whatever. But their fees would be part of that because that's what they're gonna use the fee on.
Okay.
So.
So this is the amount we're gonna ask for on the bond.
Correct.
What you got here.
Yes.
Based on the floor plan we gave you tonight,
Okay.
you add
Yeah.
square
Yep.
footage or
Yep.
add a second story.
But you do alternates, just like we're talking with Kelly, if you want, we build in alternate things, increase the size of the, and we wanna establish a plan, establish a budget, that's what we're doing, we're bidding, so that anything else is an add alternate. So we don't wanna come in and have a number that we're saying this, it comes in at 8.3, so now all of a sudden we're changing, taking things out. We only wanna be adding things on, so we establish what the budget is, establish the building type, a plan that's gonna be approved by, first this plan by the school board, and then to the budget and all that and everything with the elevation and things, so that when you do go to, and we bid it, that we're underneath that number or under, and then we have alternates to say, increase the size of the library. That's your choice to do. I'm not saying we're not gonna have some errors on the drawings, we're gonna say that right away, so we've never done a project yet, but hopefully, we've never gone over a contingency. The only time we've ever used a contingency more than amount is when the owner has decided to add things, so we're just not going to. And I will tell you, once we're done with the elementary school, that's where the contingency is gonna be used.
So the next step is the maybe meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I got a couple questions with,
Yeah.
is there anything being considered for updates in in here as far as the bathrooms?
Right.
And what will stay intact here and what won't?
Right, we had figured, we had a little bit more monies in there for savings in the precast, but we know that there is some remodeling gonna take place, so we kinda offset that, so yes, there is some money to, concession stand, possibly another
Bathrooms.
bathroom, to work on the bathroom, so,
So that will be in there.
yes.
Okay. How about the locker rooms?
We did not, and I didn't really know on the lockers, Buffy brought that up, and it just kinda caught me. I hadn't gone through a tour there, hadn't gone through the building committee or anything, so we had talked and gone through the kitchen, and we talked about the bathrooms. Hadn't talked enough about the locker rooms for me to make a commitment there, so that is one thing that's out there, yeah, if we're gonna do locker rooms. So
I think that's a big thing that we would want if we're gonna do a
Right.
project like this.
but that would be a good alternate, or else we look at it for, just what we hadn't talked about, so I didn't.
But an alternate doesn't mean it necessarily will get done.
Correct, you're right. Or use a contingency with, that if there's some, so.
How about, shop? Any updates in there as far as if there's, I don't know, windows or
Well,
the
we're
siding or
taking-
insulation
yeah.
or whatever it might be?
The only thing we talked about just briefly was just, didn't know how, if everything's up to code. We weren't really changing things as far as adding windows, but we were looking that if we're gonna be there to, I don't know if the exhaust to it, some of those things are,
The windows are bad.
yeah, there would be a big deal for doing the windows, then with the glass, aren't the glass block ones on the east side? And are they glass block? I don't know what they are.
Well, they are on the north side.
Yeah. On the north side.
It would be a big deal, but we were not planning on doing like EFS on the outside, which would be a bad idea. square footage of school at the time, you know, that $8 million number. But one of those things too, we could, with a little bit more input, we can look at what that precast and what they're going to be doing. We don't really call them, our other outright suppliers, we call them, we're never gonna get any sleep. He calls us every day, you know. So we really would like to commit to the talk, if we get to that point, talk to the Falcon people out there. They're looking at getting PCI certified too. So.
He called me the other night too. He wants people to come out and tour
Right.
the facility. I told him I'd get a hold of both you guys so you're out
Yes.
there and look at it too.
He's invited us out there.
9:30 one night he called me,
Yeah.
talked to me for about 45 minutes.
Wait till it starts coming at 6:30.
Sunday morning.
6:30 on Sunday morning.
Yeah, boy, once they start.
Yeah, I'm just saying, that's more fun than anything.
And they're in the process right now.
Yeah,
with the pieces.
they're gonna have, it's a state-of-the-art plant, I'm just telling you, it's gonna meet every requirement, so we're not worried about that.
The main focus, of course, is the elementary and the new high school. I guess what happens after that, but just from the feedback I've been getting, if we get over 8 million, the people are gonna.
That was the
start
challenge,
ready.
that I guess Scott relayed to us, and so that's what we looked at, we said, this is our plan for 8 million.
Yeah.
But if you get into this and do all these nice renovations and leave a fraction of it out, don't you try to do
Yeah.
it all as a whole project and?
I just don't, if we get over 8 million, I'm afraid it's not gonna go.
So if we do that, then what happens to some of these areas that need updates after that?
We probably have to figure out a way to take that out of our capital outlay from year to year. And do it in stages.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that we could do
And that's gonna get even more more difficult
with the cap.
with the cap coming on, so that probably isn't gonna be much of an option.
You know, in Gettysburg, we had that very issue you talked about in the bag shop. When we got to that point, and the school board did exactly that. We decided to reach into the capital budget and line the exterior of that building, put new windows in. They didn't do anything on the inside right away. They did make some of those adjustments.
But here in a couple years when this cap goes
Yeah,
on, we won't have the funds
You
available
really-
to do that.
They can't go through that. I mean, it's gonna kill this one.
There's talk about getting it changed, but right now it's still in place.
Yeah, we know that.
But
I mean, it's-
there's talk about changing it.
They have to. do those two things.
Because what else would there be as far as like the roof on the shop itself? I mean, we patched that. That's not a 20-year fix by any means, so.
But that, I mean, what was it, $10,000 quote to get steel on it that would fix it? We could do that out of capital.
What about the gym roof? What does that need?
We'll have to have some, it did leak in 2 spots when it rained last week.
It's,
And the new gym leaked though too.
nice.
Right.
In 1 spot. So we have to have somebody come out and look at it. I think Kelly, I mean, I'm sure it probably needs a cover on it.
I guess I would think you would want to look at all of those things and see where we're at with those included in to try to do it as a whole project.
Yeah, like I
Really
said
know that
before,
won't
it
be
gets
mentioned
over.
until
The
tonight.
people that are discussing it with me, we get over 8 million, they're gonna say no, and I'd rather get at least this part done.
It's really even in our committee meetings, really none of that even got brought up, I guess.
I mean, the shop, yeah, would it be nice, yeah, they have new shop windows, yeah, but it's a shop, I mean, they're welding in it, it isn't like, it's a classroom. I guess there is a classroom with drawing, but it's, I think we could get by, I mean, we could put new windows in it if it allows, but.
I think what we need to do is, I think all those ideas, Kelly, are important ideas. We need to create a list for Dean and Scott. Because there is a chance that this could come in under budget. And those would be things that they could do if it came in under budget. And that would definitely help with that cap issue with the capital outlay account that we have. So I think, those are the things they're talking about. Bigger library, fixing the shop, fixing the locker rooms, fixing the kitchen, fixing the bathrooms. I think those are all things we do need to talk about. I just don't know if it's, I mean, it'd be great to try to tie it into all this, but I don't know. But we need to have a discussion, have a list of things that we need to do in case it does come in our budget.
The playground being obviously disrupted, I mean, is there something figured in for that, or a place, or?
We've talked a little bit about moving it all over to the other side, but nothing final yet. And we keep some of it there where it currently is. With Dean's drawing, there's still some areas that we could keep. But it will, I mean, with construction going on, we probably won't be able to use it. So I don't know if we can relocate it temporarily, if we can do something there. Those are things that we'll have to talk about once we get further into it.
Is there anything else? Committee meeting tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
So, just be on the road again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know, I think did you wanna?
it's up to you guys. If you guys want to come, you're welcome to be here.
Well, seeing that, I had a little problem, I tore my rotator cuff off the plane crash, I gotta go to Sioux Falls tomorrow night in order to get this taken care of, because I can't live anymore, so, kind of a sloppy. Yeah, I know.
Scott made fun of you. He was here Wednesday. The whole time he made fun of you. That's why I laughed when you said that about the rotator cuff.
Yeah.
It's not really funny because I've had that happen too.
I have just a kind of a concern with going around in other communities in the opt-out issue. Redfield's just got voted down, and Eureka's got voted down. And I just wonder, do we need to have that in place?
Well,
I think
this
we're
is, we're a lot
different
to Redfield.
Yeah.
Redfield pulled out all the stops when they passed their bond. They had college kids come home and vote for it, and they went to the nursing home, they got all the votes they could there. And I said if they don't repeat that effort, they're gonna lose it, because that's 24 million they spent over there. We're way different. And they didn't go through. Now, Eureka, they built their high school without a vote. Did it with capital outlay, and they got grandfathered in. So I can't, $8 million if this passes, I just can't see people moving out down there. I just don't see it, but there's no guarantees, but
Right.
I can't see it. But I mean, our roof is leaking in the elementary, it's still giving us trouble, we gotta do something. I think now is the time that we just, some people want this squabbling that we're doing to stop, they want something moving on. I think we need to get a plan put together, let's get it moving on, see what happens. If they vote it down, then we work on our opt-out, make sure we keep that. Then
But if it does pass in our opt-out, it doesn't, then what?
I guess we.
We have some issues.
Then we have some issues. I mean, our capital outlay is renting a gym that's costing a lot of money. You know, I don't see that. I just, this is a reasonable plan. This is way different than 24 million. Right?
Yes, it's a lot more conservative.
Right. But their opt-out, I mean, was for not, what was it?
300,000.
300.
Yeah.
So I guess they're gonna have to,
They didn't take so many people off.
I think the message, Kevin, we have to get out though, is that if we don't get that opt-out passed, how it's gonna impact our budget at school and what things are gonna happen. I mean, that's the key, I
And
think.
to let people know we're not raising it, we're
Right.
just.
that's
We
putting it
wanna
back in
renew
place
it
again.
and just keep
Yeah.
it going.
Because I've talked to people about
and
that.
we've never only used all of it once, right? I mean, so, I mean, the board's been conservative over all these years. We're not gonna ask for much more just because we can. I mean, you know, there's no guarantees, but if this passes, I just don't see the opt-out failing, but, you know, there's no guarantees.
So is this something we look at things, we just got it here, and then we get back together again, or?
Well, I'd say they have their committee meeting and get everybody's input, and then we go from there and we gotta start that 45-day clock, so I would be in favor when we're all plan, we're ready to vote on it, have a special meeting, vote on it, so we can get our 45-day clock started for the bond vote. So we can get our bids out
Yeah.
when time gets, because that's what you're waiting for. You're waiting for the board to proceed, to
Right.
let it go to a
And then
bond.
we can get
vote,
some,
you know.
yeah, we can develop it in that 45 days, we're gonna be doing elevations, doing brochures, get everything with that, with your, all the information.
I want to say this looks way better than, than that TSP facility report. They had some scribbling on it for a plan. I think this is way better than what I was looking at there. I don't know if there was anything else, but this is the best I've seen.
We agree.
And Scott's Buffy will probably be here.
That's fine. One of you is fine. I like Buffy too.
Yeah. We will be.
And she's got a good rotator cuff. So.
Yeah, well, we're both in Redden.
Okay, that's fine.
For law enforcement, a different type of holding facility.
That's fine. If she can't be here, I understand that we'll be
No,
fine.
she's planning on, I think, planning on being.
Okay.
Can I just add one thing? Kelly? If we can establish the budget, whatever that is, whatever you're comfortable with, taking on, and the voters approve that, we would still expect that the board approves every step along the way. That there may be tweaking, there may be changes, and there may be some things not of significance that isn't what the voters planned on. Say we run into a roof thing, a structural thing, we may come and say we'd like to move this a little bit to make that happen, or whatever. So it's not like we're just signing a check. There's a lot of work that goes into it. Now, you know, I'm talking to the lawyer, but I just, that needs to be said. Thanks.
Okay, thank you guys. Okay, moving on to 10.1, the open phone time. Anybody has any comment?
When I hear you guys talk about the busing issue, I just don't think that's gonna be a problem, or it should be a problem. Because for me, I think that's a scheduling issue. Where I work, they let the bus kids go. After the buses leave, then they come over the intercom and they say, buses have left, walkers may be released. It really works, the parents abide by it. I don't think it's an issue, or it isn't an issue for me. It's a scheduling problem. And talking about more, you know, we are a little different from other places because we already, in the past, have spent $100,000 on that. Now we're still paying $85,000 for that. I think we need to just be careful because what will that be next? Be careful with the money.
Anybody else? Jeff?
I just got one thing to say about the busing deal. How many buses do we have? 4? Okay. When I was in school, we had 9. And they parked them, they parallel parked them. And so if you parallel park the buses out here, you know, 4 of them, they would take up, you know, very small area instead of, you know, parking them lengthwise. That's what they did, you know, when I was in school, and they just parallel parked them, and it would give a whole lot of, you know, you could park them in just, it wouldn't take, you know, very much room, and then you could have the kids get picked up on the other end, or, you know, or whatever.
We have 2 big buses and 2 small buses
Yeah.
that pick up our kids.
Well, that's what I say. We had 9 of them
Yeah.
parallel parked on that end when I went to school. And,
Tammy?
I have witnessed the scheduled let out of the busing of where my daughter teaches, and they run 10 buses. And it was just like clockwork. I just stood on the third floor and watched it, and it went real well. They've never had any safety issues with the scheduled movies. Looks like it went well. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Moving on to 11.1, and need a motion and a second to go into executive session for the South Dakota Code 5.1-1